Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. Pretty wild story we're going to continue covering over here at the Dave Neal Recap Empire. It's getting ugly fast. Jacqueline Trumbull was on Ari's season of The Bachelor. Remember Ari? You might remember him from stealing PPP loans from the government while living in his vacation home in Hawaii. I digress. So she was on his season, and she gets engaged to a guest professor at Duke University who's also a psychologist, and I believe she's studying psychology. And 2 weeks before their wedding, it's called off on their pre-wedding honeymoon. He shares his story right here. We're going to recap all of this. It's fascinating. He has since deleted his explanation. Not really a good look for him, but the most important aspect of this story is I just learned how to make the zigzag thing here in the thumbnail, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job. All right, credit where it's due. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals. I'm also going to be live at 10 a.m. today, patreon.com/Dave Neal, where I'm going to be sharing some behind-the-scenes stuff going on with my wedding planning. I would put the odds against my fiance calling the wedding off 2 weeks beforehand, but you just never know at this point. We're 8 years in. We're battle-tested. We don't have we're not allowed to return the deposit we put down. So I think the wedding's going to happen. But this wedding didn't happen. She posts about it. We're going to get into the story. Fascinating stuff. Bachelor alum Jacqueline Trumbull calls off her wedding to Paul. She says she came to her senses, which she had then deleted that comment. I'm going to show you the proof there. If you want some non-Bachelor content, this is a wild story, a wild recap of the Alex Jones trial. Will his lawyer's big blunder finally sink his ship? If you haven't been following this, for years, he's peddled in these conspiracy theories and saying that Sandy Hook was a hoax, and he's finally in court getting his, and boy, are they wiping the floor with his lies. There's a moment where he realizes the other team, had all of his text messages. This isn't just going to affect this trial. This might bring out information that that looks bad for January 6th. It's wild. I cover it all on the Dave Neal Show if you want to check that out. All right, back to it. So we covered this video a few days ago. Her now ex posted a Instagram reel destroying the artwork that he initially used to propose to her. I'll share that reel with you again, but here's what she had to say, updated last night. A deep thank you to all my wonderful friends and family and even my advisor for coming out to Portugal even though I chose to not get married and end my relationship. Almost all my wedding guests came out. Yeah, they already bought the $1,000 flight to Portugal even though I chose not to get married. Almost all my wedding guests came out and showered me with love and support. It was an incredibly moving week. I'll never forget the kindness of my friends during such a difficult time. It was also beautiful to see all these people I'd known separately fall in love with each other. I have the most brilliant, funny, thoughtful friends and family who made what could have been a terrible memory into one of love and joy. The question you guys probably have, because I know I do, is how did it get this far? How did the relationship get all the way to Portugal for the pre-wedding honeymoon? Are we calling that a pre-wedding honeymoon now? Anyway, so friends say, oh, sending you love and support and all that jazz. So he responds and says, when your ex calls off your wedding 2 weeks beforehand and you don't want to waste a good canvas that's symbolic of your love for her, he has deleted or at least hidden this reel, but let's play it for you guys. His Instagram, I'll share it in a second. When your ex calls off your wedding 2 weeks beforehand and you don't want to waste a good canvas that's symbolic of your love for her. So this was his response. And let's play that actual TikTok here. Can't play the audio. So this was a canvas that showed his love for her. He's holding it. So there it is, just to recap a recapper's recap here. Puts a little black paint over there and kind of smudges her out. He's got the heart. He does the whole thing. Wah, wah. Hey, look, I like artwork, you know. We don't know the full story, but I'm going to share his comment, which is right here in a second. We're just getting to it. So someone had asked, what changed in Portugal? And she said, I came to my senses. And then I looked for that comment today, and her comment was deleted. So maybe she's trying to clean things up a little bit. Someone said, experiencing the stress of a lifetime and not a single blemish? Are you kidding me? And she said, that's the golden hue of freedom. So there it is. And then someone said, are you going to do a podcast to share what happened? And she said, not a gratuitous gossip podcast on what happened, just the emotional side of it from my perspective. I have no desire to hurt him or air dirty laundry. And he said, hold my pastel kit. He said, hold my brush, hold my canvas. And then he responded with some tea. So on his Instagram now, there's no remnants of that actual reel. I gotta say, I kind of like his artwork though. It's chaotic and nice, and I don't know much about art, but I like it. Catharsis, he says. So here's what he said in response. It's since been deleted. Let's read. Alice shared our room. I don't know who Alice is. Who the F is Alice? And I was really hurt by Jacqueline's remarks and Sean's. I asked if we could spend 20 minutes alone in the hotel room, but she denied my request because some of her friends were flying out of Vegas an hour and a half later. We're flying out of Vegas? She then left with her friends to another pool party while I cried alone in our bed at the hotel. Later, when I expressed concern that Jacqueline was obsessed with some random dude 3 weeks before our wedding and that she was taking drinks from him, she and her friends said I was a controlling victim blamer. 5 of her friends then started a group chat to talk poorly about me and attempt to convince Jacqueline to cancel the wedding because I apparently have outbursts. Since I passionately defended my self-worth by arguing that I'm not a victim blamer, but instead a concerned fiancé. The echoes of her friends resonated through her head for another week, and when the topic was again broached in Scotland, the beginning of our pre-wedding honeymoon, I again grew very upset, raised my voice, and Jacqueline called off the wedding in a relationship while experiencing serotonin withdrawal and drinking a gin cocktail in Edinburgh. But I'm guessing that what you'll hear on the podcast will not include this information. Well, it will be included on my recap of things, that's for sure. Here's where it becomes tough, because he was like a guest professor at Duke in psychology, and she was studying, and of course I shared in the last video yesterday that they were on the Dear Shandy podcast, as was my fiance and myself, and I have to say, got confirmation from Charlene that all other interviews that have been on the Dear Shandy podcast are still together. So they have a pretty good success rate. This ain't one of them. So, which by the way, if you don't listen or watch Dear Shandy, nobody does it better than Charlene and Andy. And nobody. They are so good at what they do. Not just good audio quality, but good soul quality. They're good people. All right, enough. That's enough of my love fest of Dear Shandy. What if I just made a recap of every one of their love fest videos? All right, so I mean, if I were a sort of teacher here with a red pen, I'd go, oh my gosh. He said, so he's giving away a lot of information here, right? So he's saying he's obviously jealous. He's like, you're taking drinks with some random guy at the bar. I don't know what that red flag is all about. That might be a red flag, but it's one of those things. If you're not happy with that, set your boundaries. Absolutely. If you don't want your partner to be accepting drinks and flirting with someone at a bar, at a pool bar, that's one conversation to have. You can't be controlling of the other person, but you can still set your boundary. We talk about this all the time in Bachelor, right? We talk about how, like, you don't have to be okay, like on the show, the fantasy suites. You don't have to be okay with the fantasy suites. You can set your boundary like a Luke P and say, I'm not okay, if you sleep with these people, that doesn't work for me. You're allowed to do that. It just doesn't work for me. So you can set those boundaries. It'll probably end in a breakup, because the show is about, pursuing all avenues of love and all that jazz. So either way, it's okay for him to set the boundaries if he is feeling these things, but he can't control her. And it feels like that's kind of what went down here, is he tried to control the outcome here. He said he passionately defended himself. That's what's tough too. He's an artist, passion. Everyone's dated an artist before. It's like, come on, you know what I mean? It's like, put down the spray paint here and just don't raise your voice at me. A lot of people can't communicate in that way of a raised voice. I've learned this in my relationship, that like the best communication is to keep it literally as monotonous and as low energy as possible, because he might see himself as being passionate and she might feel threatened. He's passionate, but he's waving around, he's spattering paint everywhere, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is triggering. So we have to understand that one person's passion is another person's, like, that's vitriol. He said the echoes of her friends resonated through her head for another week. And look, I saw some comments about this, and I tend to agree. Friends might try to get you to break up with your partner if you have a bad fight. This is kind of why they say you should be careful to share some of the fights you have. Obviously, physicals, never a physical fight, obviously. But if you're having an argument with your partner, maybe don't share it with and again, you could disagree, let me know. Maybe don't share it with your friends, because they're going to take your side, and chances are you're both trying the best with the information you have. If it's a repetitive thing, say they're always fighting, he's always jealous, he's reading into things, some random dude's commenting on her thing, he doesn't like it, he can't get over that she was on Ari's season. It's like, he's embarrassed. I'd be embarrassed if I was on Ari's season, that's for sure. the friends are there to kind of help you see the red flags. So for the friends who I'm sure have all spent thousands of dollars trying to get to this wedding, planning for it 2-3 weeks before, they've all got their flights to Portugal. They're like, look, this wedding's not, you can't marry this guy. You can't be going through this. You haven't even gotten married yet and you're already having all these toxic moments. So I would imagine most friends wouldn't try to sabotage a wedding several weeks before. So you have to think that this was pretty serious stuff. So he said, I again grew very upset, raised my voice, and then she called off, let's call the whole thing off. And there it is. Now, when he sort of diagnoses her while experiencing serotonin withdrawal and drinking a gin cocktail in Edinburgh, that's one of those things, like, leave it to her therapist to, I mean, obviously in private discuss that, or medical professionals. But that's what we do, right? We try to like diagnose the partner and see why they did or said or acted a certain way. This is a case where if you're listening, bud, you just got to take this loss. Try to learn about yourself for the future. Try to find somebody who might not put you in a position where you feel jealous, but also remember your feeling of jealous. You need to understand that reaction too. And if you can overcome that, you might attract a partner that wouldn't make you feel jealous in the first place. I don't know. I'm not trying to victim blame anybody here. I'm just saying they clearly said I do to each other. So they clearly had some form of love for each other. You hate to see it play out this way. My guess is that even though she had said before she doesn't want to air out their dirty laundry, that this will invite more specifics, and the last thing he probably needs is for her to start sharing receipts. All right, so the registry is still active. This is always a heartbreaker. Here they are. What's the best value? What are they selling here? Oh boy, the old wine pyramid. Be careful if you're off your serotonin levels and you drink. Okay, I don't know. Copper bowls for salad. They always, I mean, it's never anything a guy could use. It's always kitchen stuff. We felt forced to make a registry. This is my registry right here. 72 days. I'm not sharing the link with you guys, so I'm not sharing this for you guys, but I'm just saying we don't need we said newlywed fund. If people cause some people just want to give you money. They please let me give you money. It's like, all right, cut us a check for the honeymoon. We're not going to Portugal at this point. But we might get drinks in Edinburgh. But it's like, we don't need anything. We live in a small place. We have no room for anything. I was saying, I guess I wanted to get a crate machine. If you watch the last episode of The Bachelorette, you'd understand that there's a pretty good crate machine floating around. So I made this video yesterday, Dog Gone Wild. Blake's dad's dog jumped in the car and gunned the gas and drove through their house. Everyone's okay. But after making this video, which not many people saw, you can go back and watch it now. It's just because it was one of those videos that was made for fun because everyone was safe. Someone said, really got tired of those dog puns. And I said, ruh-roh. And of course, Bruce said, all we can do is try to stay positive. So as far as Patricia's concerned, I dedicate a replay of the dog puns. Hope you're not too tired of them yet. Into it, holy Shih Tzu. First onto the scene right here, FUR, first onto the scene was this cameraman. Let's have a watch and see what happens. So there it is, the Home Depot music. Hey kids, just a friendly reminder to not let your dog in the driver's seat. And I guess the dog didn't have his parking brake on.
That's 3
Was
puns.
he driving a Dodge Rambo? That's for you, Hayden.
4.
Boy, very, very nice truck there. It was a K9 cylinder.
5.
Looks like this dog widened the doggy door. Puts the door into Labrador, that's for sure.
7.
Dog Days of Summer, a great dangerous situation.
8, 9.
Labracadabra, Extreme Makeover
10.
Dog Edition.
11.
A concrete doggy treat, if I've ever seen one. Wag
12.
the tail after the truck fail.
13.
Home Improvement. Rough
14.
Day in the Neighborhood. Demolition Doggy Style. That's what I like to
15.
call this one. Labrador Retrieve Your Wallpaper.
16.
Labrador Retrieve. Oh, Bassett found the wall. Bassett found the wall.
17.
Drive through movie theater.
18.
Did the dog flee the scene?
19.
Not too sure. The dog's guilty of tailgating, though.
20.
But he hightailed it out of there. If we can say one thing about this pet, it's that the dog refurbished the house.
22.
But, of course, he wagged his rights to a lawyer.
23.
That's where he's at. A dingo dinged my truck. No
24.
need to tear yourself up
25.
about it. Anyway, That's where it is, folks. That's the story.
All right,
There's
25.
I counted 25 puns or dog-related. Listen, if you can't love me at my worst, you ain't gonna love me at my best. Go to Patreon if you want to enjoy more puns and otherworldly activities. Patreon.com/Dave Neal. We'll have more updates if this story has them. At DNeals on Instagram. I got a show in Hollywood next Friday if you want to come check that out. All right, folks. We'll talk to you soon. Bye now.